General may go forward this week as the political standoff escalates over the release of more Fast and Furious documents. Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney now blaming the Bush administration for the start of the botched ATF program.
That is really the issue, isn't it? It is, how did this operation come about? It originated in a field office during the previous administration. It was ended under this administration by this Attorney General.
Fall 2009.
The
Operation Fast and Furious began.
The tactic began in the previous administration.
Okay, but the operation. You keep saying.
Okay, but the tactic began in the previous administration, and it was ended under this one.
But our next guest believes the documents could reveal something much more explosive that the White House does not want to talk about. Joining us now is former Secret Service agent and the Republican candidate for U.S. Senate in Maryland, Dan Bongino. Dan, thanks so much for being here. You say that you have intimate knowledge of what's on some of these documents. What is that?
Well, first, he said the tactic was started in the Bush administration. That's just a partisan talking point. That's absolutely nonsensical. And some of those documents, there's some interesting data. In 2009, when they started letting guns, what we call walk, meaning they weren't tracing.
Meaning the wide receiver program that he's talking about under President Bush,
right, that
is different than Fast and Furious.
Absolutely. That was a standard law enforcement tactic we call controlled delivery. When you deliver contraband, but you monitor it. They had radio frequency transmitters to monitor those guns. When those transmitters broke down, they stopped the operation. That's taught in every law enforcement school I was with the NYPD and the Secret Service, and just about everywhere. Me being an instructor as well.
But the fact that they didn't monitor these in Fast and Furious is the one that breaks all the rules and was completely botched. But what about Fast and Furious? I mean, you say that you have lots of friends at the ATF. What is in these documents? I mean, that's the $64,000 question that everyone wants to know.
Right, that's what I'd like to know too, and that's where I think sunshine's the best disinfectant in this case. If you look at the ATF's own website, after 2009, when these guns started to walk, weren't traced, in other words, sold and just in the wind, as we say, you'll notice an uptick in New York State where they traced the weapons back to Arizona.
We have a map right now that we're showing people. I believe this is from the ATF website that you're talking about, and when they started tracking the guns recovered in New York, one of the only states that does it, they found, starting in 2009, that the source of origin, the state of origin, for many was Arizona. So connect the dots.
Right. Now, again, I don't have these internal documents, and that's the whole point.
Have you seen the internal document?
No, I haven't, and that's the point of me saying this, is that, listen, 2 + 2 = 4 here. You have, me as an investigator looking at this, you see an uptick in guns found in New York, historically unprecedented, coming from Arizona. It's traditionally a Northeast corridor source state for illegal weapons. All of a sudden, after the gun walking, they come from Arizona. I don't know if they were Fast and Furious guns, but someone does.
Okay, but we know that guns were lost. We know that guns went into the wrong hands. We know that they lost track of them. We know that they were at the crime scene of Brian Terry's murder. So wouldn't it stand to reason that they show up in New York?
Well, one thing, if you have 200 dead Mexican citizens, Jaime Zapata and Brian Terry, these folks are dead. They're not going to take another breath of oxygen. This is not a partisan issue. This is not let's blame the last administration. There are people who will never take another breath because of this. These guns are now in the United States as well. And I don't know that, but they do. That's something that they need to get out there and need to get out there right now. That's the American people on this are entitled to the truth. They're entitled to hear what happened. It's going to come out anyway. It is going to come out. You might as well expose the information now.
Well, Attorney General Eric Holder would say that they've released 7,000 documents relating to this, and that should answer the questions, that this was basically a decision, a harebrained scheme by the Tucson office in the ATF. Why do you think it goes any higher or any deeper than that?
Well, there's only 2 possible scenarios. There's something there in the documents, and they're hiding it, or there's nothing there, and there's some partisan politics going on. We get that's happening on both sides. That's not the point. The point is there are dead folks out there, including dead United States agents. Those families and the American people are entitled to know what happened with those weapons. We're not talking about, we used to let counterfeit walk all the time, counterfeit money, in controlled deliveries. That's different than allowing guns to walk. There was a death involved here. And I think that information is pivotal and really needs to be put out there.
We'll see what happens this week. Dan Bongino, thanks so much for coming.
Very welcome. Thank you.
All right, President Obama outsourcing donations now. We'll tell you why he's scrambling for